Tim Eyman has been one of Washington's most well-known political figures for more than 20 years. He is a conservative activist who made his name and his money through promoting ballot initiatives.
Now, he's also spent a lot of time in court fighting legal battles, both for his initiatives as well as for himself. And just this month, a judge ruled Eyman committed numerous campaign finance violations.
So what does Eyman have to say about all this, and what does it mean for his future in politics? Our political reporter Casey Decker sat down with Eyman in an exclusive in-depth interview and with the state attorney general, Bob Ferguson, who prosecuted the case.
Most people who are politically inclined run for office. Tim Eyman made a name for himself in Washington politics a different way. Ballot measures.
I just got drawn to the ideas of the initiative process.
His work began in the late 90s, most notably promoting an initiative to limit card tab fees to $30. The measure passed, but was later struck down by the state Supreme Court. In the last 22 years, Eyman has gotten 17 initiatives on Washington state ballots, most of them having something to do with limiting taxes. Voters have approved 11 of them. 9 of those were at least partially invalidated by the courts.
It's the ideas that matter, but those ideas aren't going to get on the ballot unless you have some kind of masochist like I am that's willing to throw myself into the mosh pit of politics and be willing to take all the hits.
But Eyman's disputes in court haven't just been limited to his ballot measures. In 2002, he reached a settlement for secretly funneling political donations to his personal accounts. The settlement barred him from ever being treasurer on a political committee again, but not from running such committees. So his career as an initiative sponsor continued, and as a Superior Court judge recently found, so did his shady financial dealings.
He tearfully confessed to it, said he'd been living a lie and receiving illegal kickbacks, and said he'd never do it again. Well, guess what? He turned right around and did it all over again.
For the last several years, the Office of Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson has been investigating Eyman for a series of campaign finance violations, all centered around Eyman funneling donations back to himself. It is legal for people like Eyman to take a salary, but they have to disclose it. In this month's ruling, the judge found Eyman took hundreds of thousands of dollars that he didn't properly disclose.
That's what, to me, I just, for what it's worth, find so puzzling about this. Tim Eyman could have done all this legally. In other words, he could have had a career, paid himself a salary, disclosed that salary.
The ruling also found Eyman orchestrated a kickback scheme to pay himself even more money. For one of his initiatives, he hired a signature gathering firm. In fundraising emails, Eyman exaggerated how much that firm was charging. He then used donations to pay the firm more than they asked for. That excess was in turn paid back to Eyman. Eyman now claims the money the firm paid him was an above-board consulting fee, though he did not make that argument in court.
I approached them and said, would it be okay if you hired me to get future clients for you?
You pled the fifth when they asked you about that particular transaction.
Well, I was not represented by counsel at that time.
Eyman also says that at the end of the day, the donors he's accused of defrauding were happy with the outcomes they got from their donations.
On average, we've spent half what other people end up spending to qualify their initiatives for the ballot.
Have you heard from donors who said, I want my money back, or I'm upset with where this money ended up going?
Never. It was given directly to me. I didn't take anybody's money. Every single dollar I've ever received was given to me voluntarily by willing people.
It doesn't matter what his donors thought or think now, right? There is a law that says if you're going to be involved in the political process, like myself or like Tim Eyman, you've got to disclose the money that comes in, the money you receive, and where it goes.
This ruling is years in the making.
So it's been a long road to get to really a day of reckoning for Tim Eyman, but that day finally came.
For the last 8.5 years, I have been investigated, litigated, and persecuted by the Attorney General's office.
In the process, Eyman declared bankruptcy, and much of his fundraising efforts since have been for his own legal defense fund.
I've lost everything I've ever had in my entire life.
But Ferguson says it's Eyman himself who made the process so lengthy and expensive.
It's his own fault. He wouldn't turn over documents. That's why he's had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in contempt fines. And frankly, that's why it took so long to have our day in court.
So what was the actual result of that day in court? Well, for one, a $2.6 million fine.
Are you going to be able to pay that fine?
I don't have it. I'll never have it.
But Eyman does have an agreement with the state to begin to pay down his debts, and Ferguson says he intends to collect.
Look, I mean, you can't seriously believe anything Tim Eyman says. He's a serial liar. Look, it's going to take him a while, but he's already paid us about 400 grand. That's not chump change. And we're collecting 10 grand a month. Like I said, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. But I'm a patient man.
The second result of the ruling, Eyman is now barred from ever controlling the finances of a political committee again. During the trial, Eyman said that such a ruling would end his career in initiative sponsoring. But the same week of the ruling, he was back advocating for another anti-tax measure.
Well, I'm going full steam ahead with it, but I mean, we have a team. We're going to be very careful to make sure that we do everything right.
I can assure you and the people of the state in absolutely no uncertain terms that we'll be scrutinizing Tim Eyman's finances for a very, very long time.
Eyman is also still raising money for his legal defense fund, gearing up for an appeal.
He just lost on every single issue throughout the case. He has zero chance on appeal. He's not going to reverse that $2.6 million penalty.
One thing is abundantly clear: neither Bob Ferguson nor Tim Eyman intends on backing down anytime soon.
As long as I'm Attorney General, we'll be tracking him very closely.
I've been an activist in the state of Washington for 22 years. I'm 55 years old. I'm going to do it until the day I die. As long as I have air in my lungs and enough intestinal fortitude to keep with it and the muscle power and persistence, I'm going to keep doing it, if for no other reason than just spite.
Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
So pretty safe to say this is not the last time we'll hear from Tim Eyman.